So let's talk about self-care and what self-care even is. I like to think of self-care in 3 different levels. The first one being, and this is something that we've all done, self-medication. What ways do we self-medicate? Well, it might be more obvious sort of ways like alcohol and drugs, food. It might be more subtle ways like over-exercising, binge-watching Netflix, that one's mine, or buying things online, different ways that we kind of tune out and away from our experience and choose to numb ourselves down. So I think we all can kind of connect to this in different ways at different times in our lives. This goes up or down, and I actually use these habits and patterns in myself as a little meter for how well I'm actually feeling and doing. And the more I notice that I'm just watching Netflix, I know that I'm actually probably avoiding something. And so self-medication is not something to feel ashamed about. It's not something to feel guilty about. It's really a part of how we try to get our needs met as humans, how we try to take care of ourselves, because sometimes things are just really overwhelming and it's hard to take care of ourselves. It can be really, really hard. So I don't want you to feel ashamed or bad about the ways that you self-medicate, but it is a great practice to just notice the ways in which you do, which might be big, they might be small, and then from there make a conscious choice of whether or not you want to continue that on a daily basis. And so that is one way that our system, and I consider it a form of self-care, self-soothing. It's just not the most conscious form. It's how our system's trying to take care of itself. And the second tier of self-care is self-care, right? And I just consider that self-care. These are the practices that we do each and every day. You might go on a run every morning. You might meditate every morning. You might simply brush your teeth or have some warm lemon water in the morning. These are the tasks that we've created for ourselves to help keep us on track and taking care of our body, our mind, our spirit, and our hearts in the most comforting, nourishing, and sustainable way for ourselves. Everybody's self-care is going to look a little bit different. You might go get a massage once a month. You might have more of a daily practice that you do every morning right when you wake up, or every night before you go to bed. But hopefully, and not everybody is, but hopefully as time goes on, we get a little bit more and more consistency with this second tier of self-care, which is action-based things we're doing to take care of ourselves. Third tier, capital S, self-care, highest self-care, spirit self-care. Not action-based self-care at all. So what does this even freaking mean? This is probably when your eyes are going to start to gloss over a little bit, but stay with me. Highest self-care is not action-based really at all, because it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with how or with what we're doing. It has everything to do with how we're feeling and how we're connecting to ourselves on a deep level. So let me explain this a little bit differently. For example, say your self-care practice is going on a run every morning. You can go on that run and feel your senses, tune into the wind on your skin, listen to your music or to the birds chirping, and feel like you're just really in tune with yourself, feeling the soles of your feet in your sneakers as you run and really tuning in. Or you could go on that same run the whole time, be thinking really self-critical thoughts toward yourself, be pushing yourself too hard for your body due to really harsh self-judgment, and be depleting yourself more so than nourishing yourself, okay? So even these action-based self-care on the second tier I explained earlier can have qualities underlying them that might not necessarily be positive. They might be more negative-based, or based rather than in self-acceptance and self-love from a place of wanting to really change ourselves. And so this third tier is just taking a step further in our actions, in that we align our actions with a deep sense of how we can love and nourish and accept ourselves for where we are and who we are here in this moment, which is exactly who and where you're supposed to be. So that leads us to the question of, well, how do I accept myself? How do I find and tune into this source of self-acceptance? It can be really challenging, especially if you've never quite done it before, especially if you have the little part of your mind that tends to be very self-deprecating, which we all have, but sometimes it's harder to not listen to that voice that is super self-critical and negative toward ourselves. And so really the best way that I've found to tune into this place of capital S self-care is through the practice of deep self-acceptance. Self-acceptance meaning that I accept all the wonderful, good, juicy, beautiful things about myself, but I also accept all the things that are kind of awful and shitty and I don't like and I don't want to be a part of me. And I begin to let go of the story of this part of me is good, this part of me is bad, and rather hold it all as the dynamic, complex experience of being human, and soften my edges a little bit and allow the full experience of who I am, which changes in every given moment, to be exactly as it is. And so this capital S self-care can take place in any circumstance, really, during any action. It might be during your self-care practices, or it might be while you're in the middle of work or a conversation or going through a really hard, challenging time. And it's great to partner this feeling of, I just accept myself where I am right now, with a nice soft exhaling breath, especially if you notice that you're clenching and holding on to a lot of tension, trying to change yourself, trying to be something that you're not. Because let me tell you something that will literally set you free. You are exactly who and where you need to be right here and right now. There is nothing, absolutely nothing that needs to change about you or within you. You are already it. Okay? So breathe that in and let yourself experience that every now and again, because it is exhausting to always be trying to change ourselves over and over and over every single day, waking up and just trying to be something different than who and what you are, because who and what you are is actually divinely perfect here in this moment. Okay, so that is the truth. That is the truth. Capital S self-care. And when we combine that with our self-care daily discipline practices, we create a really, really great balance of masculine doing, feminine being, alchemy, where we are a centered, balanced human being. And that's pretty cool. But you need both. You need both the action, which is, from what I see, where people spend most of their time, and you need the being and the self-acceptance, which is a very hard muscle to start working with if you've never done it before, and very fruitful. So I hope you found this video helpful. Please leave a comment below with your thoughts on these different tiers of self-care that I've kind of in my brain created, and in your experience with this difference of being versus doing and taking care of and nourishing yourself. I'd love to hear. Talk to you next week. Namaste.